Hey guys, today I'm going to show you how to install a Samsung 860 EVO 1TB SSD drive into my old iMac. But before we continue, just one quick reminder. Obviously this video is for educational purposes only. I assume no responsibilities for anything. If you're unsure about what you're doing, always make sure to talk to a qualified service professional, for example, at Apple. Guys, I just have to say this because I don't want to get sued if you break a computer or do something wrong. And obviously always disconnect the power cord, but I think that should be rather obvious. So now, second thing, and if you just found my channel through this video, make sure to head over to my channel page. I can show this to you here, because there I have a link where you can access my free online training. Because we really live in the digital world, we live in the information society, and in the information society, there is a lot of change going on and it's going on quick. And I collected some of the most amazing case studies that I could find over the last 2 years that really show and demonstrate how people have created massive wealth for themselves in this new digital economy. I think it's really amazing to learn about these things, particularly because I found that this is like not that much taught in business school, at least over here in Europe. So with that, let's continue back to the video and let's get started. So now what we're going to do in this tutorial and review of this SSD drive, it's basically I have this old iMac, and when I say old, it is really an old iMac. I think this iMac is from 2008, believe it or not. And back then it used to be top of the line, so it's a 10-year-old iMac. And usually when they were produced, they were outfitted with a very old SATA hard disk drive. And as you already know, these drives are kind of slow. And what I did in the past, actually I did make an update of this iMac before, but that was many years ago, and I just put in a 250 gigabyte version, and this is the old Samsung SSD 840 that's in there right now. And when I switched from the old hard disk drive to this SSD, the speed increase was tremendous. But back then I didn't do video editing and product reviews like I'm doing right now, and as you can imagine, my YouTube channel is growing. So 250 gigabyte are just not cutting it anymore, and this always fills up and I have to export it to another hard disk drive, all the files that I created. So what I just got myself is this brand new 1TB version, and I'm just going to replace the old SSD with the new SSD. So I already know how to do the install, but just in case, I'm going to show you real quick because it can be a little bit tricky on the iMac to do replacements like that, because essentially, as you can see, you have to remove the screen. So I'm going to show you how to remove the screen and access that drive compartment, and then we just switch out the drives, do a fresh install, and check the performance. So essentially what you will need is just a few tools, and this is probably the most important component. This is used to remove the glass panel, and let me show this to you. Basically how this works, it's made for glass, and it will suck out some air, and inside the screen there are like magnetic latches, and you also have to pay attention which iMac you're using. This is an old 24-inch, and I think they were produced, I bought this in 2008, and I think they were produced until 2009. But if you have a new version like these 27-inch or whatnot, the mechanism is slightly different. And yeah, that's basically it. That's something I remember I used too. So you might want to make sure you have a bunch of tools that you can loosen the display inside so that you get to the hard drive compartment. But instead of me keeping on talking, why don't we just get started? That was the introduction, so let's jump to the installation process. So guys, I really hope this shows properly, but basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach this here, maybe a little bit at the top, and then now it holds by itself, and very gently just move this plate out. And yeah, basically that's all there is to it. There's just these pins, and I just feel it has a little bit of a magnetic, I mean, I don't want to call it magnetic latch, but you see these points right here? Those are tiny little magnets. So the combination of these pins and the magnets up there in the frame is basically what holds the glass really rock solid in place. And yeah, you can just really gently pull it out and thereby access the screen. And guys, maybe you can see this already here. Those are not normal screws. These are like these really special screws that look like stars. And I think if you're just using one of these base sets, it's not going to be included. So you may have to look for a more advanced special toolkit to find the right one. And I think it's also a very small one. So I'm just going to pick out one of the small ones and see which one it is. There you go, guys. I just found it, and you see how tiny that is. That you really will need that to remove the screen, and maybe I can look up the number. I think it says it's a T8 screw, whatever that means, but you get the point. So now I put this into my electric, I don't want to call it drill. Guys, you probably know what it's called, and put it in reverse, and I'm gonna just really slowly and carefully, step by step, remove these screws. And in total there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And maybe, guys, what I can do is I just remove all these 12 screws, and then I just fast forward, and I'm going to be back in a second because you don't need to see how I remove every single one of those. And then, guys, one important thing, when you take them out, there are different lengths. Those short ones are from the top. There are a little bit longer ones at the side, then 2 longer ones at the bottom, and then 2 in the middle. So just make sure you kind of keep track of these different lengths when you have to reattach it. And for me, I just made 2 tiny dots here at the bottom so that I know, those with the dots are these long ones. Because that way it should be properly secured. Now let me check real quick. And yeah, guys, essentially I forgot one screw, so make sure that you really don't miss one. And then you can basically take this alloy casing. And I remember when these iMacs came out, this alloy casing, that was like a real, really a change from the plastic. I remember Apple was really proud of this manufacturing from the alloy. And here at the top there's like this tiny connector. Please just remove that. Be very gentle, and then when you reassemble it you can put it together, because I'm not sure what exactly is attached to the frame, but I guess it's kind of some Wi-Fi antenna or something like that. Again, guys, one thing I forgot, there is like another screw right here at the bottom where there's the memory slots where you can upgrade the memory. This you also will have to remove, and I already see there's lots of dust on here, so make sure to remove this as well. And yeah, if there's a lot of dust, that potentially also could clog up your system, so maybe it's really good that I switch out this disk drive. Then I can just do some maintenance work and clean out any dust as well, which then we have like some sort of preventative maintenance and performance upgrade at the same time. And obviously it all helps to maintain your iMac. I mean, you might think, oh my god, how can you still use an iMac from 2008? But let me tell you, it works just fine. And I rather delay buying a new one for another year or 2 if I can, because then I skip 1 or 2 product life cycles, and that saves me a lot of money. Imagine I would have bought a new iMac every 2 years. It would have been very, very expensive. And see how nicely this comes off? So guys, and that's how it looks like inside. You see this is like the main cooler, I believe. I think there are 3 coolers in there. Main cooler for the CPU, 1 for the hard disk drive, and 1 for the optical drive. And yeah, I mean, it has collected quite a bit of dust. What I'm just going to do is I'm going to remove all that dust, and then I'm going to jump to the install of the solid state disk drive, because I have to move this screen a little bit up, because obviously the disk drive is behind the screen. And yeah, here I also did a memory upgrade in the past. I think when I got that, it had 2 gigabytes and I upgraded it to 4. And surprisingly, because the computer is literally so old, it only can handle 4 gigabyte. But hey, it does everything I needed to do. And I'd rather extend the product life cycle to get a really nicely new Mac before I buy the current one, and then a couple months later a new one comes out and I am kind of like upset because, oh no, I just bought an iMac and then a new one comes out. I think that's like a feeling nobody really enjoys. So let's clean this up and then install the SSD. So guys, 10 minutes later, as you can see, I really cleaned everything very nicely. I removed the dust, but just very carefully with a vacuum. Be very careful. And now that this all is prepped, why don't we go ahead and unbox this drive and install it. And I also prepared yet 4 more screws on each side where the display was installed, here and here. And like I told you earlier, just a friendly reminder again, always make sure this is not all put into one box. Keep this nicely managed. This is from the display, that is from the memory below, and this is from the aluminum frame that's around it. So we're all ready to go. And basically I prepped everything for the install. Just to show you real quick before I unbox the hard disk drive, this is the actual screen unit, and you can just gently tilt this forward, and here already can touch the hard disk drive. This was the place where the hard disk drive was installed. I hope you can see this. And I'm just going to remove this tray and put the new SSD in there. And yeah guys, that's basically how it looks on the inside. Straight here, that's the power supply. I mean, honestly, I'm not sure how much more life I'm gonna get out of this iMac. The power supply looks kind of aged, but it really doesn't matter. Like, I can always access this hard disk drive, the solid state drive right here. So let's just quickly take this out and connect a new one. Okay guys, this was like a little bit tricky. But you see, basically, there is some sort of tray that I have right here, and this is like the temperature sensor. So you probably want to stick this back on there, and there is the serial ATA2 connector. So let me just quickly remove this and then maybe also clean this up a little bit and then install the new drive. And yeah guys, basically first I moved from this old hard disk drive to the Samsung 840 series, the 250 gigabyte, and that's what I'm working on right now. Maybe I can zoom in a little bit, because I found apparently this does not look like the original tray, so I must have gotten like a tray when I did this install the last time. Of course, well, it says it's a Corsair tray, so let's quickly take this out. Also make sure you don't lose this sticker here for the temperature sensor, and we should be ready to go. So now I would say bye-bye old Samsung solid state drive. It's time you get switched for a new one. I cleaned also up the tray, and now we're gonna get finally, after such a long time, this new terabyte version. I'm really super excited about. Only thing I really would wish is that my iMac would support the SATA 3 standard. That's the only thing that I'm missing a little bit. Let's see. Like always, very nicely packaged, and also nice metal casing. And yeah, visually you don't really see much of a difference. Here, that's the old one, this is the new one. The old one looks a little bit nicer from the case, but that's about it. So let's install the new one. I'm really eager to see how this performs. And you see, there are these pins here. Okay guys, small correction. You don't put it in like this. Obviously this seems to be from the hard disk drive or from some other standard. Just align it through the bottom and then put the screws in. And again, like, it's really no rocket science. Guys, I hope you are not bored by this right now. So maybe I'm just putting this in and jumping ahead a little bit. Okay guys, success. I don't know whether you can see it, but I installed the 1 terabyte solid state drive in the Mac, and you see everything is really nice and clean. Always be careful when working inside, because that's the power supply. And yeah, I don't know, you don't want to mess anything up here or get like electroshock or something. Of course it's unplugged, but nonetheless, always be careful, always be safe. And essentially guys, what I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to put everything back together. I mean, it's should be really straightforward. I showed you all the steps, it's just a reverse. And then I'm going to do a fresh install. Probably if you want to do the same, you should have like a USB stick with the operating system. This is a very old one that I bought in a Mac store long time ago. But of course I made a USB stick just like the one you can buy at the store myself. And there are tutorials like this online, and I'm also going to make one for my channel. So before you take it apart, you make sure you have like an operating system on a USB stick to install the new system on your iMac. And I'm just gonna put this together and I'm show you how to start the install, and then we run a speed test of this solid state drive. So guys, the USB stick is in, and I decided instead of putting it together entirely and then figuring out maybe there was a mistake, I'm just gonna test it like this. I just attach these screws on the side of the display panel, and then when you boot up, just push this Alt key here and it should enter into the boot mode from the USB stick. And that's what I'm going to do right now. Start it up, push the key, and it should enter into the installation mode. And there you have it. There is my USB stick from which I'm just going to install the operating system in a second. So since it seems to work everything, I'm just gonna power it down, put the aluminum panel on top and put the glass on top, and I can do the install. Always be safe. Yeah, I don't assume any responsibility if you start touching things and get electrocuted. So really be careful, and always, if you work on the machine, make sure it's powered off and disconnected from the electricity. So let's do the install and then the speed test. And so guys, now I successfully installed the 1 terabyte Samsung 860 EVO drive in my iMac. And what I think we're just going to do right now is I'm going to go to about this Mac, and then I'm going to show you the storage. And as you can see here, everything shows up really nicely. I used this disk drive now for quite some time, maybe a week or two. I installed some stuff, I did some video editing, I did in total of 10 projects so far, and the drive performs really nicely. So the final thing before we conclude this video, I have installed the Blackmagic speed test, and I'm just going to quickly run this for you here and then compare it with the old performance that I had with the previous drive that I had in my iMac. So let's quickly, and that was the previous drive, the smaller one that I showed you before, the 250 gigabyte. Now let's test the terabyte version. And yeah guys, as you can see, it works pretty nicely. Obviously, since my iMac is so old, it only has the SATA 2 connector, so I'm getting about half the speed of what the new drive can bring. But that's not due to the drive, it's just due to the fact that the interface in my iMac is SATA 2 instead of SATA 3. So, and if you look this up, let's say on Wikipedia, the SATA 2 performance, you will see it can only bring a certain speed. But the interesting part is, let's contrast that with my other Samsung drive, because before I removed it, I run the same test and took a screenshot. Let's quickly look at the screenshot. And yeah guys, isn't this interesting? You see on the left hand side my old 840 series Samsung drive, and you see for some reason, despite the fact that that was an despite the fact that that's a solid state disk drive as well, for some reason it is slower. And The only way I can explain why this old solid state disk drive was that slow, because in theory they should both bring the same kind of speed. It's because the old drive always would fill up maybe to 80 or 90%. So the drive was always very, very full. And I read somewhere it's not good if you have a solid state disk drive and you have it 90% full. It degrades the drive, and maybe that's what happened over time, that I used this a little bit wrongly, and so the drive degraded over time, because I felt it was a little bit faster at the beginning. Unfortunately, when I first purchased this, I didn't do the speed test. Fortunately though, with the new terabyte drive, I'm going to pay close attention. Maybe if I have 700, 800 gigabyte on there, then I'm going to do some copying away, and thereby I preserve this nice speed right here. And also, if my iMac always at sometimes should fail, I can always take this out and put it in a USB 3.0 case and use it with my new iMac. So there you have it, that's the speed test, and now let's jump to the conclusion real quick. So guys, now in conclusion, what have we learned? I've clearly shown you that upgrading from a hard disk drive such as this to a solid state disk drive such as this over there is an improvement, but obviously, as I have also shown you with the speed test, if you get a solid state disk drive, make sure you think about what do you want to use it for. Do you have a lot of data? I mean, if you're just listening to a little bit of music or watching YouTube or do like a Word document or something, then obviously you don't need a terabyte. But if you're doing video editing, make sure you have a big enough drive, because as I have demonstrated the old Samsung drive, I think I really increased the wear and tear by always filling it up 90% or more with my video projects, and then in the last moment exporting the content to an old hard disk drive externally via USB. That turned out not to be the smartest move. Probably I should have managed this a little bit wiser, then I would have maintained the speed and performance. Now that I have learned that lesson, I'm sharing it with you, and I'm gonna have way more like how do you say, breathing room, more room to maneuver with the bigger hard disk drive. So I hope this video was useful for you. Again, the disclaimer, I assume no responsibility if you break something. I said that in the beginning. And lastly, make sure to head over to my channel page, because in the top corner there is the link that you can follow. And I really strongly encourage you to check out my online training platform and take the online education material that you can access there, because it includes the case studies of how people created success in the information society that we are obviously living in, and where there is a lot of change going on. Because in the past things were done a certain way, and now they're done totally different and in improved ways. So if people that apply these techniques and follow like this training system, they're more likely to create beneficial outcomes. And I demonstrate this in the case studies, because some of the people, they really got super successful and have generated lots of passive income. And sometimes it's even shocking for me. Guys, I went to business school and they never told us about this stuff. And when I saw what some people online are earning, I'm just like, what the heck am I in a business school for? When people online, they make this kind of money. So it really forced me to rethink the way I see the world. And I'm going to share this with you in my awesome online training case studies. So until next time, I see you as a subscriber. Take care. And yeah, guys, obviously more and more people have subscribed to my channel because they have found useful content, such as this product review from this awesome Plantronics USB headset. And yeah, I'm even surprised how many people started to rapidly liking my online business content. And yeah, maybe I see you also as a student in my course. I would be very happy to teach you some of the tricks. And I see you in the next video. Take care.